Camilla had always been fascinated by the palace. Even as a child, she would look at its tall walls and golden gates from the distant road. The sparkling windows seemed magical, and the stories of queens, kings, and royal treasures filled her imagination. Every time she passed by, she imagined walking through the grand halls, hearing the soft echoes of footsteps on marble floors, and seeing the glittering jewels she had only heard about. But she never thought she would have a chance to actually be inside. The palace had been quiet since the passing of the late queen. People whispered about her wisdom and kindness. Even in death, she commanded respect, and the palace had not yet returned to its normal routine. The halls were calm, with guards walking slowly and servants moving carefully. The stillness felt sacred, but Camilla felt excitement mixed with nervousness. She had a plan, and she knew it was risky, but the idea of seeing the royal jewels up close was too tempting to resist. Camilla had prepared for this moment for weeks. She had read old books about the palace, watched videos of its corridors, and memorized the guards' schedules. She had learned where the queen kept her personal treasures and how to approach the rooms without being noticed. Today she wore plain clothes, blending with visitors. In her pocket she carried a small set of tools that she had practiced with, though she told herself she might not need them. As she entered through the main gate, Camilla felt her heart beat faster. The guard at the entrance raised his hand, signaling her to wait. She held her breath and smiled politely. "I am here to pay my respects," she said. The guard studied her carefully and then nodded, letting her pass. Once inside, the hall stretched ahead like a painting. The high ceilings were decorated with golden patterns, and tall windows let sunlight pour in, creating patterns on the polished floor. The air smelled faintly of flowers from the palace gardens, and Camilla felt both awe and fear. She walked slowly, pretending to admire the paintings on the walls. Each painting told a story, and some showed past queens and kings wearing the royal jewels. Camilla's eyes followed the golden crowns, necklaces, and rings. Her fingers itched to touch them. She imagined holding a sparkling tiara and feeling its cool weight in her hands. The excitement made her hands tremble slightly, but she kept her composure. Finally, she reached a quiet corridor that led to the queen's private collection. The door at the end was large and heavy, made of polished oak with intricate carvings. Camilla peeked through the small glass window in the door and saw the treasures inside. Necklaces with diamonds and emeralds lay neatly in velvet boxes. Crowns sparkled under the soft light. Rings of every shape and size rested on small cushions. The sight took her breath away. She had only dreamed of this moment, and now it was real. Camilla's pulse quickened. She carefully pushed the door and tried to open it quietly, but it was locked. She pulled out her small tools and began to work on the lock. She had practiced this many times, and her fingers moved quickly and skillfully. She felt a thrill as she heard the soft click of the lock opening. Slowly, she turned the door handle and slipped inside. The room smelled faintly of polished wood and old fabric. Each jewel seemed to glow with its own light. Camilla's eyes scanned the room, and her fingers itched to touch the treasures. She approached the first display case, a necklace of sparkling diamonds that seemed almost alive in the light. She picked it up carefully, feeling its weight, and held it close to her chest. She imagined wearing it and walking through the palace as if she belonged there. Suddenly, she heard a voice behind her. "Excuse me, miss. Can I help you?" Camilla froze. A tall royal guard stood in the doorway, his uniform crisp and his eyes sharp. His presence was commanding, and she felt a chill run down her spine. He looked at her calmly but with suspicion. I was just looking," she said, trying to sound innocent. The guard nodded slowly. "It is unusual for visitors to be here. May I accompany you?" Camilla swallowed. She realized she had been careless. The excitement of seeing the jewels had blinded her to the risk. "Of course," she said, trying to hide her nervousness. She followed the guard as he walked slowly through the room, his eyes never leaving her. The jewels sparkled in the light, but Camilla could no longer enjoy their beauty. She felt trapped, knowing she had been discovered. She tried to think of a way to explain herself, but the words would not come. The guard's presence was like a shadow, and she felt the thrill of the adventure fading. As they reached the center of the room, the guard stopped. "These treasures are not for anyone but the royal family," he said firmly. Camilla nodded, keeping her eyes on the floor. She felt a mixture of shame and fear. She had dreamed of this moment for so long, but now she understood the danger she had placed herself in. The guard's gaze softened slightly. The palace is in mourning. The queen was loved by many. These jewels are part of her memory. They are not just ornaments. They are symbols of respect and history. Camilla felt a lump in her throat. She had not thought about the meaning behind the jewels. She had only thought about their beauty and value. Now she realized that she had disrespected something much more important than herself. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "I did not mean to cause harm. I only wanted to see them." The guard nodded. "Intentions matter, but actions are more important. You must leave this room immediately and return to the main hall. The palace will decide what to do next." Camilla obeyed. She followed the guard out of the treasure room, her head lowered. The light of the jewels faded behind her, but the lesson stayed in her mind. She had learned that some things were too precious to touch, not because they were valuable in money, but because they carried history, memory, and respect. As they walked through the quiet halls, Camilla's mind raced. She wondered what her family would say if they knew what she had done. She felt a mixture of regret and relief. She had not been caught in a terrible crime, but she had been close enough to learn the consequences of temptation. The guard led her to the main entrance, where sunlight poured through the golden gates. Camilla took a deep breath, feeling the fresh air fill her lungs. She looked back at the palace, feeling a strange combination of awe and humility. The jewels, the walls, and the history had taught her something she would never forget. "Thank you," she said to the guard, her voice steady but respectful. He nodded. "Remember what you have learned today. Some treasures are meant to be admired from a distance." Camilla stepped outside, closing the gate behind her. The palace stood tall and silent, its secrets safe. She walked down the road, her mind filled with wonder and understanding. The dream she had chased for so long had ended. But she had gained something far more important: respect for history, respect for others, and respect for herself. That day, Camilla realized that some dreams were not meant to be taken. Some beauty was meant only to inspire, not possess. And as she walked away from the palace, she knew she would never forget the lesson the jewels had taught her. Camilla had barely stepped away from the palace when a mixture of fear and curiosity filled her mind. She walked along the cobblestone road, replaying every moment in her head: the sparkle of the jewels, the guard's firm words, and the feeling of being so close to something forbidden. All of it weighed heavily on her. She knew that what she had attempted could have had serious consequences, yet the memory of the treasure still lingered in her mind. Back in her small room at the inn, Camilla sat by the window, staring at the moonlight reflecting off the rooftops. She had never felt so conflicted in her life. The excitement of being inside the palace had given her a sense of adventure she had never known, but the reality of what she had done now made her uneasy. She understood that she had crossed a line, even if only for a moment. The next morning, Camilla received a message. A palace messenger had arrived at the inn with a note from the chief of the royal guards. The handwriting was elegant and firm, commanding attention. The note requested that she return to the palace immediately. Camilla's heart sank. She had hoped to forget the incident, but it seemed the palace had not forgotten her. She dressed quickly, trying to appear calm, though her hands shook with nervousness. As she approached the palace gates once more, Camilla noticed the difference between this visit and her previous one. The guards now looked at her with sharper eyes. Their movements were precise, their expressions serious. The palace, which had once seemed like a magical place, now felt like a living entity observing every action she took. The sunlight reflected off the golden gates, but instead of wonder, Camilla felt a heavy weight pressing on her shoulders. The chief of the royal guards was waiting for her in a quiet hall. He was a tall man with a strong presence, and his uniform was decorated with medals that told stories of loyalty and bravery. He looked at Camilla with a mixture of concern and authority. "Camilla," he began, his voice calm but firm. "We need to discuss your visit yesterday. Entering the private collection without permission is serious. The palace treasures are not only valuable, they are symbols of our history and respect for the late queen." Camilla nodded, feeling her throat tighten. "I understand. I did not think about the consequences. I only wanted to see the jewels." The chief sighed. "Intentions are important, but actions define character. You must understand that curiosity can be dangerous if it crosses boundaries. The palace will not punish you severely this time, but you must leave immediately and never attempt to enter restricted areas again." Camilla felt relief, mixed with shame. She had expected harsher punishment, yet the chief's words carried a weight of responsibility she could not ignore. "I promise," she said, her voice sincere. "I will never enter again." "Good," the chief said. "You may leave, but remember what you have learned. Respect for rules is respect for people and history. Never forget it." Camilla bowed slightly and walked out of the hall. The palace corridors that once filled her with excitement now seemed intimidating. Every step reminded her of the risk she had taken and the lesson she had learned. The jewels were still shining in her memory, but she understood now that they were meant to be admired, not taken. Outside, Camilla walked through the gardens, letting the fresh air clear her mind. The flowers were in full bloom and the fountains sparkled in the sunlight. She paused to watch a group of children playing near the fountain. Their laughter was innocent and free, reminding her of the joy that could be found without taking risks or breaking rules. She realized that the true treasure was not the jewels, but the lessons life offered. Over the next few days, Camilla stayed away from the palace. She spent her time exploring the town, meeting new people, and helping at the local library. She found joy in simple activities such as reading books, gardening, and walking through the markets. The memory of the palace and its treasures remained, but it no longer tempted her. Instead, it became a reminder of the importance of respect and integrity. One afternoon, as she walked along the main street, she noticed a small notice pinned to the town bulletin board. It announced that the palace would hold a public exhibition of some royal artifacts, allowing people to view them under supervision. Camilla's heart leapt. She realized she could admire the treasures safely, without risking rules or respect. The idea of visiting the palace legally filled her with anticipation. When the day of the exhibition arrived, Camilla dressed neatly and arrived early. Guards checked each visitor carefully, and the palace had arranged the artifacts in glass displays. The jewels sparkled under the soft lights, but this time, Camilla felt no desire to touch them. She walked slowly from display to display, appreciating the beauty and history without wanting to possess them. She even read the descriptions of each piece, learning about the queen's life and the significance of each jewel. As she admired a particularly beautiful tiara, one of the palace guides noticed her attention. "You have a good eye," he said kindly. "This tiara belonged to the queen herself. She wore it during many important ceremonies. It represents dignity, courage, and grace." Camilla smiled. "It is beautiful," she replied. "I can see why it is treasured." The guide nodded. "Beauty is one thing, but understanding its meaning is another. Remembering the stories behind these items is how we truly honor them." Camilla felt a deep connection with the words. She realized that her previous desire to hold the jewels had been shallow. Now she understood that admiration with respect was far more meaningful than possession. The palace had taught her a lesson she would carry for the rest of her life. As the exhibition continued, Camilla noticed a young girl staring at a display with wide eyes. She approached her and smiled. "Are you enjoying the exhibition?" she asked. The girl nodded eagerly. "I love the jewels. They are so pretty and shiny." Camilla knelt slightly to meet her eyes. "They are pretty, but remember, the real treasure is respecting history and the people who created these things. Admire them, but do not try to take them. That is the important lesson." The girl nodded seriously. "I understand." Camilla felt a warm sense of satisfaction. She had learned her own lesson and was now able to share it with someone else. The palace, once a place of temptation, had become a place of wisdom and learning. By the end of the day, Camilla left the palace feeling peaceful. She had seen the jewels, learned their stories, and understood their value beyond material wealth. The guard smiled politely as she exited, and she realized that respect and honesty could bring a sense of pride far greater than any treasure. Walking through the gardens on her way home, Camilla reflected on her journey. She remembered her initial excitement, the fear of being caught, and the guidance of the chief guard. Each experience had shaped her understanding and helped her grow. She understood now that curiosity was natural, but it must be guided by respect and care. That evening, she sat by her window once more, writing in her journal. She described the jewels, the palace, and the lessons she had learned. She wrote about the importance of integrity, the value of history, and the beauty of admiration without possession. Her words felt like a promise to herself, to live with respect, curiosity, and humility. Camilla smiled as she closed the journal. The palace and its treasures had given her an experience she would never forget. More than that, they had given her wisdom, understanding, and a sense of responsibility. She had faced temptation, learned from it, and grown stronger because of it. The night was calm and the stars shone brightly in the sky. Camilla felt a quiet joy, knowing she had made the right choices. The palace would always be there, and the jewels would continue to shine. But her own growth and understanding were the most valuable treasures she had gained. And so, Camilla's journey continued. She would never forget the lessons of the palace, and she would carry them in her heart forever. She had learned that true courage and wisdom came not from taking what was forbidden, but from respecting the rules, honoring the past, and making choices that reflected her values. Weeks passed since Camilla's visit to the palace exhibition. She had returned to her simple daily routine, reading books, walking in the gardens, and helping the townspeople with small tasks. The memory of the jewels remained vivid in her mind, but now it carried lessons instead of temptation. She felt proud of herself for respecting the palace rules and learning from her experience. One morning, as she was arranging books in the library, a messenger arrived carrying a small envelope sealed with the royal crest. Camilla's heart skipped a beat. She had not expected any further contact from the palace. Carefully, she broke the seal and opened the letter. The message was short, polite, and formal. Camilla, the palace has noticed your respect and understanding during the exhibition. We would like to invite you to participate in a special program to learn about the history of our treasures and the late Queen's life. Your insights and appreciation for history have impressed the royal staff. Please come to the palace on the first day of next week. Camilla read the note several times, unable to believe it. She felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. An invitation from the palace itself was something she could not have imagined, especially after her previous visit had been so tense. She realized that the palace saw her curiosity as something positive, as long as it was guided by respect. The week passed slowly for Camilla. She could hardly focus on her daily tasks because her mind was filled with thoughts about the upcoming visit. She wondered what the program would involve. Would she meet the chief guard again? Would she see the jewels more closely? Most importantly, she wanted to prove that she had learned from her earlier mistake and that she could be trusted. When the day finally arrived, Camilla dressed neatly in a simple dress and tied her hair back. She walked to the palace gates with careful steps, her heart beating faster than ever. The guards recognized her immediately and smiled politely. The familiarity brought a small comfort, and she nodded in return. Inside the palace, she was greeted by the chief of the royal guards. His expression was firm but kind. Camilla, we are pleased to see you again. Today, you will have the opportunity to learn about our treasures in a controlled and safe environment. We believe this will deepen your appreciation and understanding. Camilla bowed respectfully. Thank you for giving me this chance. I will do my best. The chief led her through the corridors, explaining the significance of the rooms and the objects within them. Camilla listened carefully, absorbing every detail. She saw paintings that told the stories of past queens and kings, maps showing the expansion of the kingdom, and artifacts that had survived centuries. Each item had a story, and Camilla realized that every treasure she had admired earlier was more than just gold and jewels. They represented courage, leadership, and wisdom. Finally, they reached a room she had never entered before. The doors were slightly smaller than those of the main treasure room, but the glow from inside hinted at beauty. This room contains some of the late Queen's personal items, the chief explained. These items are valuable not only for their material worth, but also for the memories they carry. You may observe but do not touch unless instructed. Respect for these items is essential. Camilla nodded, feeling a sense of reverence. The room was filled with delicate objects. A fan decorated with fine embroidery, a small jewelry box, a necklace with pearls, and a delicate crown used for ceremonial events. Each item seemed to carry the Queen's presence, as if her spirit lingered among the treasures. Camilla felt a quiet awe and realized that she had been naive before. The true value was not the shine of the jewels, but the history and meaning they represented. As she carefully examined the displays, a palace historian entered the room. Welcome, Camilla, he said kindly. We are glad you are interested in learning. Many visitors see the beauty of the items, but few understand their stories. Today, we hope to teach you more about the significance of each treasure. Camilla smiled and followed him as he pointed to a small, ornate crown. This crown was worn by the Queen during her first public ceremony. It represents her dedication to the kingdom and the respect of her people. Notice the intricate design. Each element tells a story of courage, wisdom, and service. Camilla leaned closer, observing the craftsmanship. She realized that she had never truly appreciated such details before. Her previous focus had been on the glitter and sparkle, not the meaning behind them. Now she felt a connection to the past, as if she were learning from the queen herself. The historian continued to explain several other items: a bracelet given to the queen by her mother, a ring representing an alliance with a neighboring kingdom, and a small chest that contained personal letters. Camilla listened attentively, asking questions and noting every detail. She felt her understanding deepen with every explanation. After some time, the chief of the royal guards returned. "Camilla," he said, "you have shown respect and curiosity. We would like to offer you a role in our educational program. You will help guide future visitors, sharing the stories you have learned. Your insight and honesty are valued, and we believe you can inspire others to appreciate the palace treasures responsibly." Camilla felt a rush of joy. She had not expected this outcome, but it was more rewarding than she had imagined. She had turned a mistake into an opportunity. "I would be honored," she replied sincerely. Over the next few weeks, Camilla began her new role. She worked alongside the palace staff, guiding visitors and sharing stories of the late queen and the treasures. Children listened to her with wide eyes, and adults appreciated her careful explanations. Camilla realized that her own experiences had made her a better teacher. She could explain the lessons she had learned from curiosity, temptation, and respect. One afternoon, a young boy asked her why she cared so much about the palace treasures. Camilla smiled and knelt to meet his eyes. "The jewels and crowns are beautiful, but the real value is in the stories they tell. They teach us about courage, kindness, and wisdom. We must respect them because they remind us of the people who came before us and the lessons they left behind." The boy nodded thoughtfully. "I understand. I want to learn too." Camilla felt a warm satisfaction. She realized that her journey had come full circle. What had started as curiosity and temptation had grown into understanding, responsibility, and the ability to inspire others. She had faced her mistake, learned from it, and now could help others see the true meaning of the palace treasures. As she walked through the palace gardens that evening, Camilla reflected on how much she had changed. The palace, once a place of longing and desire, had become a place of growth and learning. The jewels no longer tempted her. They educated her. She had learned that true admiration comes with respect, and that lessons learned from mistakes can lead to meaningful opportunities. The sun began to set, casting golden light over the palace. Camilla paused to watch the reflection on the fountain, feeling a sense of peace and accomplishment. She understood that her adventure had not ended when she had been caught the first time. It had continued in a way she could not have imagined, guiding her toward a path of knowledge, integrity, and purpose. That night, as she sat by her window, she wrote in her journal about her new role and the lessons she had learned. She reflected on her first visit, the fear and excitement and the wisdom gained from observing the treasures responsibly. She felt grateful for the guidance of the palace staff and the opportunity to turn her mistake into something meaningful. Camilla closed the journal and smiled. She knew that her journey was not just about jewels or treasures, but about growth, respect, and learning from experiences. The palace had given her more than beauty. It had given her understanding and the chance to make a difference in the lives of others. And so Camilla's life had changed. She had discovered that curiosity, when guided by respect and responsibility, could lead to great opportunities. The palace, once a symbol of temptation, had become a source of wisdom and inspiration. Camilla had learned that the true treasures in life were not objects but lessons, experiences, and the ability to help others grow. Camilla had been working at the palace for several weeks now. She had grown comfortable with the staff and the daily routine of guiding visitors and explaining the history of the Queen's treasures. Each day brought new visitors, each eager to see the artifacts and hear the stories behind them. Camilla enjoyed her work immensely, finding joy in sharing the lessons she had learned and watching others appreciate the beauty and history of the palace. One morning, Camilla arrived early, eager to prepare for the day. She walked through the gardens, admiring the roses and fountains as the sunlight reflected off the golden gates. Everything seemed peaceful, yet she sensed a quiet excitement in the air. Today, the palace would host a special group of students from the kingdom schools. They had been chosen to learn about the palace treasures, the Queen's life, and the importance of history. Camilla felt proud that she would play a role in teaching them. As the students arrived, Camilla greeted them with a warm smile. Their faces were full of curiosity and wonder. They followed her into the exhibition rooms, listening intently as she described the significance of each artifact. Camilla spoke with confidence, sharing both the history and the lessons she had learned from her earlier experiences. The children asked many questions and she answered them patiently, feeling a sense of fulfillment she had never known before. However, as the group moved toward the Queen's personal collection, Camilla noticed something unusual. One of the students, a boy named Leo, lingered behind the group. He seemed fascinated by the jewels, but his eyes were not filled with admiration alone. There was a spark of mischief, a curiosity that seemed different from the others. Camilla's instincts, sharpened by her own past, told her to watch him closely. Leo quietly slipped toward a display case holding a delicate pearl necklace. He bent slightly, appearing to reach for it, though it was behind thick glass. Camilla stepped forward immediately. "Leo, please stay with the group," she said firmly but kindly. The boy jumped slightly, startled. I was just looking," he stammered. Camilla nodded. "I understand, but some things must be respected. These items are important not only for their beauty, but for their history. We must not touch them without permission." Leo hesitated, then nodded slowly. Camilla could see the curiosity still shining in his eyes, but she maintained her calm. She gently guided him back to the group, explaining once more why respect was essential when viewing the treasures. After the visit, Camilla spoke with the chief of the royal guards. "There was a student who seemed unusually interested in touching the treasures," she explained. "I watched him carefully and he did not succeed, but I thought it was important to let you know." The chief nodded. "Thank you, Camilla. Your observation and quick action have prevented a potential problem. Curiosity is natural, but it must be guided. I am glad you were here to ensure respect was maintained." Camilla felt a sense of pride. She realized that her past mistake had made her more responsible. She could now teach others the value of respect, patience, and understanding, and prevent mistakes before they happened. Later that evening, Camilla walked through the palace gardens, reflecting on the day. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden light over the fountains and flowers. She thought about Leo and the other students. Curiosity, she realized, was a gift, but it needed guidance. The palace had given her the tools to help others use curiosity wisely. As she turned to leave, a messenger approached her with another letter. This one was sealed with the royal crest and had an air of urgency. Camilla opened it carefully. The message read, "Camilla, we have noticed your dedication and the way you have guided our visitors. We would like to offer you a special project, assisting in organizing the Queen's archives. This includes documents, letters, and personal items that have never been displayed publicly. Your discretion, respect, and understanding are required. Please report to the Chief of the Royal Guards tomorrow morning." Camilla felt a rush of excitement. This project was unlike anything she had done before. She would have access to a part of the palace she had never seen, and she could help preserve history for future generations. At the same time, she felt the weight of responsibility. These documents and items were priceless in their own way, containing the Queen's thoughts, decisions, and personal reflections. The next morning, Camilla reported to the Chief of the Royal Guards. He greeted her with a nod of approval. "Camilla, this project is important. The archives hold the Queen's personal papers, letters from important figures, and records of decisions that shaped the kingdom. You must handle everything with care. Your task is to catalog the items, ensure their preservation, and assist with selecting items for future exhibitions." Camilla bowed respectfully. "I understand, sir. I will do my best." She was led to a large, quiet room filled with shelves and cabinets. The air smelled faintly of old parchment and polished wood. Camilla's eyes widened as she saw the rows of neatly organized boxes and files. She felt a sense of awe and responsibility. Each item represented a piece of history, a story waiting to be told. As she began her work, Camilla carefully opened the first box. Inside were letters written by the late Queen to her advisors. The handwriting was elegant and precise, and the words revealed the Queen's wisdom, kindness, and dedication. Camilla read slowly, absorbing the lessons contained in each sentence. She realized that the Queen had faced challenges, made difficult decisions, and guided the kingdom with courage and compassion. Hours passed as Camilla worked diligently, cataloging letters, notes, and small personal items. She discovered a diary that revealed the Queen's thoughts on leadership, responsibility, and the importance of integrity. Camilla felt a deep connection with the Queen, as if the lessons she had learned in the treasure room were now reinforced through these writings. One afternoon, as she reached for a delicate envelope, she noticed something unusual. A small folded note had been tucked between the pages of a book. It was addressed to future guardians of the palace treasures. Camilla carefully opened it and read, "To those who admire the treasures of the palace, remember that true value lies not in possession, but in understanding. Respect the past, honor the present, and guide the future with wisdom and integrity." Camilla felt a shiver of realization. The note confirmed everything she had learned so far. Her journey had been more than curiosity and excitement. It had been preparation for a life of responsibility, respect, and guidance. She felt grateful for the opportunity to continue learning and helping others appreciate the treasures of the palace. As the weeks went by, Camilla became more confident in her role. She guided visitors, organized the archives, and assisted in planning new exhibitions. She noticed that her presence inspired others to behave with respect and care. Children listened attentively, adults asked thoughtful questions, and even the staff acknowledged her dedication. Camilla understood that her own growth had made a positive impact on the palace and the people who visited it. One evening, as she walked through the quiet halls after a long day, Camilla reflected on her journey. She had entered the palace as a curious girl, tempted by the glitter of jewels. She had been caught, felt fear, and learned an important lesson about respect. She had returned with honesty and dedication, transforming her mistake into an opportunity for growth. Now she was trusted, respected, and able to guide others. The palace no longer represented temptation or danger. It was a place of learning, wisdom, and history. The jewels and treasures were still beautiful, but their true value lay in the stories they told and the lessons they offered. Camilla had become a guardian of those stories, a guide for those who wished to learn and a reminder that curiosity, when balanced with respect and integrity, could lead to great opportunities. Camilla paused by a window, looking out at the gardens bathed in moonlight. She felt a sense of pride and peace. The palace had taught her more than she had ever expected. It had shown her the importance of responsibility, the power of learning from mistakes, and the beauty of guiding others. She knew that her journey was far from over, but she was ready for whatever challenges and opportunities lay ahead. And so Camilla continued her work at the palace, carrying the lessons of the past, the treasures of history, and the responsibility of guiding others. She had learned that true wisdom came not from what could be taken, but from what could be understood, respected, and shared. Camilla had grown into her role at the palace with confidence and pride. Months had passed since her first visit, the day she had been caught attempting to see the Queen's jewels too closely. What had once been curiosity and temptation had transformed into knowledge, responsibility, and dedication. She now walked the corridors not as a visitor but as a trusted guide, admired by both staff and guests. One morning, the chief of the royal guards called her to the main hall. His face was serious but warm. "Camilla," he said, "the palace wishes to honor your dedication and the lessons you have learned. The king has approved a special role for you. You will now be responsible for overseeing certain exhibitions and assisting in the education program for visitors of all ages." Camilla felt her heart swell. She had never imagined that her journey, which had started with a mistake, could lead to such trust. "I am grateful, sir," she said. "I will do my best to honor this responsibility." The chief smiled. "We know you will. Your honesty, respect, and knowledge have proven that you are more than capable. The palace treasures and stories are safe in your hands." Over the next several weeks, Camilla took on her new duties. She planned exhibitions, guided visitors, and worked closely with the palace staff to ensure that each display told not only the story of the Queen, but also the lessons behind each artifact. She discovered that her own experience, her curiosity, her mistake, and her learning gave her a unique perspective that inspired others to behave responsibly. One afternoon, a group of children arrived for a special tour. Camilla greeted them with her usual warm smile. She noticed their excitement as they looked at the sparkling displays and colorful paintings. One little girl approached her shyly and asked, "Miss Camilla, did you ever touch the jewels?" Camilla knelt to meet her eyes. She smiled kindly. "I once wanted to," she admitted, But I learned that the treasures are more beautiful when we respect them and learn their stories. Admiration is more important than possession. That is the real lesson." The girl nodded, her eyes wide with understanding. Camilla felt a sense of fulfillment. Her own mistake had become a teaching tool, helping others understand the value of respect, patience, and responsibility. She realized that the palace was not only a place of beauty, but also a place where people could grow through experience and guidance. Later that day, Camilla was invited to assist with a new exhibition that showcased the Queen's personal letters and diaries. She carefully arranged the items in glass cases, ensuring that visitors could read about the Queen's life and understand the significance behind each choice. The letters spoke of courage, compassion, and wisdom. Camilla felt a deep connection with the Queen, as if she were learning directly from her experiences. While working, she noticed Leo, the curious boy from weeks ago, standing at the entrance. He looked excited but a little nervous. Camilla approached him gently. "Hello, Leo, are you ready to learn?" Leo nodded eagerly. "Yes, Miss Camilla. I want to understand everything this time." Camilla smiled. "That is the right attitude. Let's begin by looking at the Queen's letters. They tell stories about decisions she made, the challenges she faced, and the importance of being kind and wise." As they walked through the exhibition, Camilla explained each artifact and letter with care. Leo listened intently, asking thoughtful questions. Camilla guided him patiently, sharing the lessons she had learned from her own journey. By the end of the tour, Leo had a new understanding of responsibility and respect. Camilla realized that her role had grown beyond simply guiding visitors. She was shaping the way people appreciated history, the past, and the lessons hidden in the treasures of the palace. Her own experience had given her insight that no book or lesson could teach. She had learned from curiosity, temptation, and understanding, and now she could pass that wisdom on to others. One evening, after the palace had quieted down, Camilla walked through the gardens. The sun was setting, casting golden light across the fountains and flower beds. She reflected on her journey, from the day she had first entered the palace with excitement and fear to this moment, where she was a trusted guardian of history. She thought about the chief of the royal guards, the staff, the visitors, and the lessons she had shared. She realized that mistakes were not the end of the journey. Instead, they could be the beginning of growth, learning, and opportunities. Her own experience had shown her that integrity, respect, and patience were more valuable than any treasure, no matter how beautiful or shiny. As Camilla continued her walk, she noticed the palace lights turning on, illuminating the golden gates and marble corridors. She felt a sense of pride and belonging. The palace had once seemed like a distant dream, then a place of temptation, and now it was a home for her skills, knowledge, and dedication. She knew that she had truly found her place. The next day, the palace hosted a special ceremony to honor the Queen's memory and her legacy. Camilla was invited to speak about the importance of respect and understanding in preserving history. Standing before the audience, she took a deep breath and shared her story. She spoke about curiosity, mistakes, learning, and the lessons hidden in the treasures of the palace. The audience listened with rapt attention. Children and adults alike were inspired by her honesty and wisdom. Camilla realized that her journey had come full circle. What had started as a desire to touch the jewels had become a mission to protect and share the lessons of history. After the ceremony, the chief of the royal guards approached her. "Camilla, you have exceeded all expectations. Your dedication and wisdom have made a lasting impact on the palace and its visitors. You are now an official guardian of our history, trusted with both the treasures and the lessons they carry." Camilla felt a warm sense of accomplishment. She had turned her curiosity into responsibility, her mistake into growth, and her excitement into purpose. She bowed respectfully. "Thank you, sir. I will continue to serve the palace and its history with honesty and care." In the following months, Camilla continued her work with even more dedication. She assisted in new exhibitions, guided students, and organized programs that helped people understand the meaning behind the treasures. She became a symbol of trust, integrity, and learning for everyone who visited the palace. One afternoon, while walking through the gardens, Camilla noticed a young girl looking at the fountains with awe. The girl reminded Camilla of herself, full of curiosity and wonder. She knelt to speak with her. "Do you know why these fountains are important?" she asked gently. The girl shook her head. Camilla smiled. They are beautiful, but their real value is in what they represent: care, dedication, and respect. Everything in this palace tells a story. When we listen, learn, and honor those stories, we grow wiser and stronger. The girl's eyes lit up with understanding. Camilla realized that she was passing on the lessons she had learned from her first visit, transforming them into guidance for others. The cycle of learning and respect continued, and she felt proud to be part of it. As the sun set over the palace, Camilla stood by the fountain and reflected on her journey. She had entered the palace driven by curiosity and desire, faced her fears, and learned from her mistakes. She had grown into a responsible guardian, sharing the lessons of the past with everyone who came to visit. She understood that true treasures were not jewels or crowns, but the lessons, knowledge, and integrity that one carried through life. Camilla smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. The palace had given her more than beauty and history. It had given her purpose, trust, and the chance to inspire others. She knew that she had found her true place, not just among the jewels, but among the stories, lessons, and people who valued honesty, respect, and understanding. And so, Camilla continued her life at the palace, guiding, teaching, and learning. Her journey had started with a moment of curiosity and temptation, but it ended with wisdom, respect, and purpose. She had become a true guardian, not only of the Queen's treasures, but also of the lessons they carried for generations to come. Camilla understood that life's true treasures were not those that could be taken or worn, but those that could be shared, respected, and preserved. She walked through the palace gardens with her head held high, ready for the future, confident in her choices, and grateful for the journey that had shaped her into the person she had become.